In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a 19th century murder case that still fascinates the world today, over 100 years later. Before I get into the video, I just would like to say hello to all the new subscribers. My channel is has been slowly growing over the last couple of months. I'm quite chuffed that is happening. And to all you new subscribers, I just want to welcome you to a very weird and creepy, scary, horrific corner of the internet, where I like to touch on some scary conspiracy facts, phobias, anything that's terrifying or weird or scary, and that I like to draw art that is related to that story. So that's what I do on this channel. And also I will from time to time do some other art adventures here and there, so stay tuned for that. Today's topic and today's illustration is going to be on the Lizzie Borden murders, and it goes through all the information about the case and what apparently happened and who could have done these murders. In 1892, a River Falls, Massachusetts woman named Lizzie Borden allegedly murdered her father and stepmother in the very house that she shared with them. So we'll delve into Lizzie Borden herself. She was born in 1860 and had an older sister named Emma. She was part of a wealthy family. Her father, Andrew, was a director of several textile companies and owned a lot of commercial property. Even though he had money, he was very frugal with it and let some of their houses and the properties that he owned become very run down, and also would not install indoor plumbing in the house that they lived in, which is what most wealthy families had. They had indoor plumbing. They were a religious family, and Lizzie was involved in the church activities and taught kids at Sunday school. Lizzie and Emma's mother, Sarah, died in 1863, and 3 years later their father Andrew married Abby Dorothy Gray. Lizzie believed that Abby only married her father for his money. Fights and tensions started brewing in the household, and in July 1892 this led to Lizzie and Emma moving out for a while and staying in a local rooming house. It was apparently over their father gifting real estate to Abby's family. A week before the murders, the whole household, including their live-in maid Bridget Sullivan, who was also known as Maggie, and the story behind that was the fact that they actually had a maid previously called Maggie and was replaced with Bridget, and Lizzie sort of felt a little bit weird towards Bridget, so she ended up calling her Maggie. So what happened was they all fell ill due to mutton left on the stovetop for way too long. But Abby was convinced it was poison, as Andrew was not a very liked man around town. All but Maggie recovered fully by the day of the murders. The night before the murders, John Morse, which was Sarah's brother, which was Lizzie and Emma's uncle, came to visit and was invited to stay for a few days and discuss business matters. There was speculation that the discussion was about real estate as well, which may have added fuel to the fire. On the 4th of August 1892, the day of the murders, Abby went upstairs between 8:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. to make the bed in the guest room where John was sleeping. John Morse apparently left the house around 8:40 a.m. to visit his niece. Andrew arrived home around 10:30 a.m. after leaving for his morning walk about 9 a.m. but could not get into the house because the door was jammed. Maggie ended up helping him open the door. Then Maggie could hear Lizzie laughing upstairs. By now, Abby would have been dead. Lizzie allegedly helped her father into slippers and he lay down on the couch. But I'll let you in to this little piece of information. This is very conflicting because he was not wearing slippers when he was photographed after he had died. Maggie felt unwell, so she went to lay down in her room on the 3rd floor. At 11 a.m, Maggie woke to Lizzie screaming at her to come downstairs as she had found her father dead. The family physician was called to the house and pronounced both Andrew and Abby deceased. Now, Andrew was found first, and he was on his back laying in the couch, struck around 11 times in the head with a hatchet. One of his eyes was completely cut in half, which means he would have been asleep and didn't even know what hit him. The wounds were so extreme and gruesome. His nose was severed from his face. Abby was found in the guest room with a hatchet-like mark above her ear, which made her fall to the floor face first. She was then struck 17 times in the back of the head. 2 hatchets were found in the basement, assuming that they were to be the murder weapons, as one had a broken handle that looked freshly splintered. Both Andrew and Abby's stomachs were tested for poison, which came back negative after they had been sick prior to their deaths from the so-called mutton that was left on the stove. The maid Maggie and the neighbour told police that Lizzie despised Abby so much. Lizzie was witnessed tearing up a dress, possibly the one that she wore on the day of the murders, ready to be burnt, as it had paint on it, but no one could get hold of the dress to test it. Why they never checked Lizzie or Emma or anyone's clothes still amazes me. They were never examined on the day of the murders, and the police returned only 3 days later to fully search the house, which means evidence could have been hidden, destroyed, whatnot. So this is extremely weird, but I suppose we are dealing with we're dealing with the 1800s, so I don't know what their procedures were back then. Probably maybe lapsed with a lot of things. Now, Lizzie then became number 1 suspect, and she was interviewed. Her behaviour was weird, erratic, and information that she told the police on the day of the murders was often contradicted itself. Apparently around 11 a.m. on the day of the murders, Lizzie was witnessed going into the barn, returning 10 minutes later to find her father dead. On the 11th of August 1892, Borden was arrested and put in jail. Both Andrew and Abby's heads were removed during autopsy and were presented during the trial on the 5th of June 1893. Lizzie apparently fainted when she saw them. After an hour and a half in court, Lizzie was acquitted of murder on the 19th of June 1893 because an upper-class Sunday school teacher woman would never have done such a crime. Plus, the witnesses seeing her in the barn at the time of the murders was enough to get her off. After this, Lizzie and Emma went and lived in the Hills neighbourhood, which is where Lizzie always wanted to live, and apparently it was a very upper-class area, where they had a very wealthy life after inheriting the estates of their father. In 1905, Lizzie and Emma had a falling out, resulting in Emma moving out and never seeing her sister again. Lizzie died on the 1st of June 1927 in Fall River, followed by Emma 9 days later in a nursing home in New Hampshire, and both sisters never married. If you have heard anything on this particular part of Lizzie and Emma's life on why they ended up going their separate ways, let me know. I personally think it probably came down to the murder. So some of the conspiracies that have been floating around about this case are, some of them are weird and I don't agree with. Some of them are plausible. I'll go through them right now. The murders seem like they were done by a man because of the strength shown in the attacks. And this is where I think that maybe John Morse had something to do with it, but I will get to that a little bit later. Lizzie had attempted to buy a toxic prussic acid, I think that's how you say it, I'm not too sure, probably butchered that, and apparently the pharmacist would not sell this to her because apparently she needed a prescription. Her excuse for buying this particular acid was that she was cleaning a sealskin cape. Another conspiracy is that the murders may have been done by Andrew's illegitimate son named William. Lizzie and Emma were going to cover it up. This is my thoughts on the whole thing, is that John Morse murdered them. Because it does not look good for him just turning up the night before and then, leaving 3 days later. I find that quite weird. He may not have been happy with Andrew's marriage to Abby, and maybe Lizzie had been talking to him and was, talking about how she wasn't happy. She was afraid that, Abby was out for money and all that sort of stuff, getting the estates from Andrew. Hence the reason why he showed up the night before, making it look like he was there to, talk business or visit the family, and he may not have been happy that Andrew gifted real estate to Abby's family. So it could have been the fact that John, Lizzie, Emma, Maggie, they were all in on it together. Or maybe it was just Lizzie and John. Maybe Emma and Lizzie, maybe Emma didn't know that could have been maybe the falling out later on. Maybe Lizzie told Emma what had happened, that she had played a part in it and all that sort of stuff. Who knows? I have watched quite a few paranormal investigating videos regarding this case, and a lot of the spirit boxes have come back and said that John was a name that popped up in the spirit boxes when the questions were asked around if, who killed Abby or Andrew. And one of the videos that I watched on this was by Glam and Gore. I will have a link down in the description below if you want to go check that out. She puts a quite light-hearted sort of comical spin on the investigation. They stay overnight in the house, and this is when one of the readings says it was John. So apparently Abby's blood had coagulated while Andrew's was still fresh when he was found first, which leads towards the killer being in the house all morning waiting for Andrew to return so they could kill him, which means that it must have been John, Lizzie, Emma, or Maggie, or a joint effort, as I have mentioned before. Lizzie and Maggie could have potentially have been lovers and were caught by Abby. They reckon that Abby could have been killed by a candle holder while Andrew was killed with an axe. But if this was the case, why would you then kill Andrew? He sort of had nothing to do with it, unless they were worried that Abby would have went and told him. But I don't think that one's plausible. Well, it's plausible, but I don't think that was the motive for killing Abby. The Lizzie Borden house is a bed and breakfast. You can go and stay there where these murders happened, and it is quite a bit of a hotspot for paranormal investigators to stay there and do their investigating with their spirit boxes and all that. And like I said, I've watched a couple of the videos of these paranormal investigators on YouTube, and it's very fascinating. I really enjoy watching the paranormal videos like that, where they do get the spirit box readings, and yeah, I find that so fascinating. And what do you think? What have you heard about this case? Have I missed anything out? If I have, let me know. Let me know down in the description below what you know about this. I personally think that Lizzie may not have done the murders. I say she had a big role in it, but I would say it was a joint murder, and I do believe that John Morse may have been the one that went through with this. Either that, or they paid someone to do it, and maybe hid them in the house, or got them into the house. I don't know. I don't really know how it would have played out, but I don't think Lizzie was directly involved. I think she had a part, and I think that I do believe it was probably a man who had the force to be able to crush the skulls in with an axe. And yeah, a woman could do it. Yeah, no worries, because they're sharp, instruments. But I don't know. Like, I must admit, the pictures that I've seen of Lizzie Borden, she's not the most. Doesn't look like the most vibrant woman I've ever seen. She just looks very cold. Like I said, comment down below what you think, what you know about this case, and anything that I have missed. The illustration that I did for this case today is of a woman with a head, half her face sort of cut out, with an axe coming up through the center of her body on a wooden stick. As you see, her neck is actually a wooden stick, and wearing a dress that I saw Lizzie actually wearing, sort of modelled. It wasn't an exact copy, but I modelled the dress that I did in the illustration off of that particular dress. Just a bunch of little hatchet axes around. Just cut one in her arm, one in the side of her head, sort of to represent what actually happened in the case, and some strings of blood and blood splatter, and a big axe that she's holding, just to sort of represent the whole case in a nutshell, I suppose. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, that you enjoyed learning about this particular murder, and that you enjoyed the illustration that went along with this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!